Oh, terrific. Ryan, it's so
Cool.
exciting to have you with us today. We'll
Yeah, I'm glad to
dive
be here.
we'll
Yeah, thanks
dive
for
right
joining us.
into it. So we've been looking at the mixture between programming and music technology and generating electronic music. And we're very honored to have you here because you've really been at the forefront of using languages like Max to create generative music tools that can then influence a wide range of musicians. So, can you tell us something about why that kind of approach to music appealed to you?
Um, well, yeah, I mean, that's a word that gets used a lot with my work, the generative stuff. And it's almost it's very similar to that, but it's almost not generative. It's everything it takes is what you give it, and it just assembles it into
Ah,
the best structure. So it's not really coming up with anything of its own. Yeah,
so maybe like
the
AI is closer, this idea of like an assistant, right? Like assisting
yeah,
AI, like an
Mhm.
automated
exactly.
tool.
Yeah, exactly. Automation is what I'm all about. And that's basically what the amanuensis is, which is the name of my main project. It's it's an assistant to a composer that jots down all your ideas, that sort of thing.
So
So cool.
brilliant. Like
So
this
Yeah,
is
that's
exactly
awesome.
what we all wish
Yeah,
we had on our
that's like
shoulder.
yeah.
yeah, so
And I know like amanuensis we're going to look at in detail, and we'll be cutting into pieces of you kind of narrating us through that tool. But there have been some really interesting other products that you've worked on in museum installations
sure.
and kind of singing streams, like processing streams of existing data.
Yeah, yeah. So the singing stream is the name of a patch I threw together that yeah, basically the idea is that it can take any data stream and turn it into MIDI notes. So it's a way to play instruments, play music with, anything. So whether that is a game controller or a Connect that you're standing in front of and it's sensing where your arms are and you can throw your arm out and make a kick drum sound, that sort of thing.
So it's more
Um,
gestural than like data sonification. So you wouldn't send it the stock exchange numbers and have it turn those into music.
if you did that, it would probably just be noise, is the thing.
We all feel
Yeah,
that
it's got to be
way.
something you can
Yes.
control too. So yeah,
Yeah,
but
so
it can even,
gestures.
yeah, it can even turn audio into MIDI notes. So you could, uh, layer synths along with the guitar that you're playing as you're playing it, or, beatbox with actual drum samples
So
as
our
you go.
students are, for the most part, just kind of introducing themselves to this world. And so, they kind of see audio over here as one
Mhm.
domain, right, where things are very continuous. And then you've got these like little dots of bunches of music information over here that's MIDI. So,
Mhm.
what kind of tricks did you do to walk from one domain to the other?
Well, it's it's a matter of kind of smoothing it out. Well, actually,
Like
I have
sometimes
tried
there's,
to avoid
yeah.
MIDI where I can,
Uh
but
huh.
MIDI is so convenient. It's so ubiquitous. It's you kind of got to go with it. It's just the easy way to go at first, and then you just play a synth or whatever, find a synth, and it turns it into audio. As far as like using audio to get to MIDI and then back to more audio, um, yeah, you gotta smooth that out and look for peaks and crossing thresholds, and
Mm-hmm.
because you
Right.
gotta you
Yeah.
gotta
Sometimes people are doing FFTs and they kind of,
yeah
right, try and pick peak tones and then grab that. And
uh-huh yeah, that would be tricky because then you're incorporating pitch also.
yeah. Yeah.
um just amplitude is all the singing stream does, but
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. So, Jen, have you ever, like, I know To the Sun music is up on SoundCloud and all kinds of
Yeah.
places. Have you kind of run into this type of programming before in the
I think
musical
it's becoming a little more
realm?
prevalent. Yeah, not like not to. I think now it's becoming more prevalent because it's more accessible for people and they're learning it. So am I running into it more? Or I think that was your question. Yeah, I think though. I think we're seeing it more. I hope there's going to be more. This is really an exciting territory to discuss and explore. So yeah,
And Ryan, what kind of tools do you work with
yeah.
most often? Our students are living in the Max domain for their kind of first
Mhm.
introduction, but we have some programmers in the class who are probably going to start looking at some web MIDI packages and some kind of other like C++ with Juice, and there's so many
Okay.
options out there. What kind
Yeah.
of guidance would you have for them? Sometimes it feels like there are too many options, right? Like you don't quite
Yeah.
know how to get
Totally.
started.
Um, I mainly work with Max. I find Max really easy to get into and really easy to learn, you know? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, as far as, I mean, especially when you start using Gen in Max, like you have the efficiency of a lower level language like C or C++. So,
That's a
um,
terrific point. We haven't hit upon that in class, but there is like kind of a like how would you describe Jen? It's not really its own language. It's kind of like sits in this space between
Limbo.
C++ and
yeah,
Max, wouldn't you say?
it's, well, I mean, I always use, I like it. I always use code boxes in there. So you're typing in actual text in Gen Expert. So it is like its own language, but it's uh, compiled in C++, I believe.
Yeah.
In any case, uh, yeah, I mean, it's as fast as any other language you could ask for, I think.
I think that's
And
the attractive thing, right? It's attractive that Max has like this nice visual interface, and our students came in through using Visi, and they were doing amazing video effects like right on their first day. But
Mhm.
it has grown to have all of these components because now it supports Node.js, and Gen is
Yeah,
really well developed and fast and efficient, as you're saying. So it's just it's an
yeah,
incredibly elaborate platform right now.
Mhm.
yeah. It's good that there's a whole ecosystem, you know?
Mhm.
I went to the conference they had up in Massachusetts last year, and so they opened by asking how many people had more than 25 years of experience with Max. And like all of these hands went up.
Oh man,
Yeah,
not me. Not quite that
no.
many.
No, it's just been there for a long time, and that can be a
Yeah.
death knell. But I think they've managed it well. They've managed their growth well. Do you have
Oh,
like Max is integrated into Ableton for our students this semester? Are you like what's your working environment look like? Do you have a DAW that you're religious about, or do you have
um,
tools that you'd
actually,
recommend?
well, I mean, I always used to use Ableton for sure. And that's how I actually discovered that Max existed through Max for Live. And then my ambitions all grew from there. And I started making what I call the amanuensis now. And that's basically like its own DAW
Awesome.
in it's entirely like in just catered to the exact way that I want to write music. So I don't use Ableton anymore. It's just all the amanuensis.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it can do uh, all the general functions of a DAW for sure, um, but it's just all very specific. Like it's very specific to the way I want to write. Just auto assembling, spontaneous jamming essentially, and
Yeah.
turning it into a really a game. There's lots of little options I've added where it becomes a challenge to play. Like it'll throw you a new instrument suddenly that you got to switch over to and use. Or yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
Oh, that's
aspects as far as the
fantastic.
That's
game.
really cool.
So now, is this something that, like, long term, you'd be looking to have up in GitHub and people would build on it with you as an effort, or is it something that you're looking to take to market, or it's just a personal tool that influences the way that you experience music and create music?
It is a personal tool first and foremost, but I would love to get more people interested in it. Uh, I don't know if I specifically have commercial ambitions with it. It is up on GitHub,
Mm-hmm.
but there's actually better places if you were interested in trying it out. I could. There are better places like my Discord where you could download the like standalone version. You know,
Right.
if you didn't want to mess with the code, you could
Well,
just get
that's
started
terrific.
more easily.
That's a real enticement to our students because
Yeah,
they're facing a final project. They have to
Ah,
pick something that's interesting, and I think this is going to
that would be a
spark
great.
ideas for a lot of the
awesome.
people in the class. Yeah, so we might kind of be reaching
Talk
back to you in a
forward.
week or
Cool.
two.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
What kind of listening interests do you have? Like, did you come from a musical family? Do you kind of have very focused electronic listening habits, or are you a classical musician?
Um, no, I don't come from a musical family. I'm not classically trained or anything. I mean, quite the opposite, really. Like I've always just found it the most enjoyable to just like pick up a guitar originally and just mess around on it,
Yeah,
and figure out, I don't even know a lot of, chord names or all that
right.
theory stuff necessarily. I mean, I do by now, but certainly not in the beginning. I just picked up a guitar and played what I like to hear.
I think you're
And
bringing up an excellent point, though. Like you explored music, it didn't come from the kind of the pipeline of you must know, like a gatekeeping type thing. Like you must know music theory, you
yeah,
must know how to play this in order to create.
yeah,
It came as a byproduct of that,
And
which
I
is
think that's
yeah,
one of the
for sure.
things we're really enthusiastic around in electronic music is that some of those barriers vanish.
Mhm.
And you shouldn't
Hmm.
have to practice scales for 2.5 years before you can
Totally.
enjoy making
You just
music.
simply enjoy
And
just the pleasure of making music. Yeah.
and that's exactly what the amanuensis is all about. Like, um, it can teach a complete. It's kind of by it's it should be able to teach a complete novice like just how to play, how to jam, you know, because you just play your instrument and it will try to pick out the best things that you give it and then loop those back around you
Mhm.
and incorporate it into a song that grows around with you. So it kind of rewards you for doing well without explicitly saying like,
Yeah.
this is how you play
So
or
when
anything
things
like
come
that.
up that are musically more, how would we say, like more pleasant?
More musical,
Yeah,
more
more
rhythmic
musical.
is what it
Yeah.
is.
Uh-huh.
Like and all the exploration I've done with this, like it always comes back to rhythm. Rhythm is like the basic, most fundamental pattern in music, and I would say
Yeah.
that patterns are what cause or what make something music rather than noise. You know,
Yeah, right.
elaborate patterns to watch on or latch onto.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And I mean, that's the human experience, right? Like you start like being in the womb, just hearing this rhythm. Like, oh, I mean,
Hmm.
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah, I
idea
mean,
that like these
every,
aspects are native to being a human being. This is what it
yeah,
means.
everything is a function of time. Everything is so.
Yeah.
That's what rhythm is. It's just time patterns.
Yes. And you mentioned noise. I thought that was interesting too, because we talk about that, or we just a little bit we discussed in class, kind of like how music is, I'm not, this is not my quote, but like organized sound or noise. Like it's a matter of just how we interpret
Yeah.
it.
Hmm.
So I think that's an excellent point.
Right. That kind of idea of your perception
Yeah.
plays
Yeah.
into
I mean,
what you
static
hear and
maybe
what
set
you.
music for someone. I don't know. So
Yeah, it's a spectrum. I know some people who like some really weird stuff.
oh yeah. Well, yeah, like I that some of that like really bit crushy, distorted, like
Uh-huh.
brony stuff, like just
Yeah.
like interesting. Which is cool. Like I'm glad people like can do that. Like we have the ability to create that and go like, hey, I like this or I don't like this. It's not this like one thing everyone has to like. We're beyond that. Just
Mhm.
And
For
you
sure.
know, another idea that we've been trying to foster in this course is that music can connect you to a community, right? So students, even though we have like a copy of Ableton Suite provided for them, which is a great gift, thank you,
yeah,
Ableton.
thank you, Ableton.
You know, we're going out to grab patches that other people have written and posted for free to share, and you've become part of a community when you walk into this. Has that been your experience of programming and music and making
Yeah.
music?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love to collaborate. I think it's essential, as far as music and programming as well. Um, like
Mhm.
it brings something new to the table. Like you can get stagnant easily as far as music or anything else. And all you got to do is like introduce a new mind to the process, and it'll create something new that couldn't exist alone in either case, you know?
That's so important because we have younger people in our class and they've grown up on the internet and they're like, look, everything good has been done. Like
Yeah.
why even
Yeah, yeah.
try? Like nobody like
I used to worry so much about that long ago. Like all the music is already going to be made, like
yeah.
how do you come up with something new? But I like not at all anymore. Like it can never end. All you got to do is introduce another person to the mix,
Mhm.
and they
That's
wouldn't
a great quote. I think
like,
I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt, Ryan.
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Another
totally.
mind in the
And it doesn't
mix.
even have to be a musician.
Right.
You a visual artist can lend to their painting, and you set music to it, and suddenly it's something else entirely.
Oh, I'm hearing final project. Jen, you hearing final
Yeah, I'm hearing lots of stuff going on in my head.
Bing,
Yeah.
bing. I got the final
Really
project
great
filter
ideas.
on.
No, but like I talk about that a lot in my classes about collaboration. I mean, I'm sure it's just like the you're right. Like a lot of our students come in digitally native, internet plugged in, like and not necessarily understand the value or the concept of like a true collaboration. Not like, hey, group project, we have to work together. Like, no, it's
Mhm.
like the actual process is really valuable
Yeah.
and enjoyable as well if it's good.
Yeah, I
We have
find it really fulfilling, but it's also just a challenge,
Hmm.
like to be introduced. It's like it becomes like a game like that, and I like to think of music as a game. I guess I've played a ton of video games in my life, and
Hey, I'm with you on that. So
I switched over to music, and like I find music more fulfilling and more productive. But I still like video games, and I still like the people who I played video games with, and I want to create music with them as well, even if it's a crazy challenge to do so. But
oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It reminds me of I think it's this program or app called Melodics. Have you heard of it?
no, I don't think I have.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like, do you remember DDR? Or it was like
Uh-huh.
it's kind of like that, but for like like learning how to make beats and stuff. But it like
Like
rewards
finger
you.
drumming, right? It's like a
Yeah,
little
finger drumming. I'm sorry. Yeah,
tool.
it's
Yeah.
Oh,
really
okay.
finger drumming. But also learning how to play chords and stuff too, like on a piano.
Ah.
So or keyboard rather. But anyway, it's the same. Without knowing exactly, like it's kind of like the same idea. It's like the game is like the main focus, and like the other stuff's kind of like in the background a little bit.
Yeah. That's really the concept I have going here. Like I'm pretty in depth into it actually. Like yeah, I mean I imagine a game, it could be any kind. It doesn't have to be Guitar Hero or DDR, but those are great examples. It could be any sort of game where it's just it's rewarding you for playing well. And so the soundtrack is your own creation. It's not like you are following along to a Guitar Hero song or something. It's your own creation, and it evolves with you as you progress through the game. And
That's
the
mind
harder
blowing.
levels
Yeah.
you get to, the more accurate you need to be, and so the soundtrack gets more frenetic and fast paced right along with the action, with the gameplay.
That's so cool. My favorite story about, DDR and that company is that MIT Media Lab, when I toured MIT Media Lab, right, they've got like the city of the future in these two rooms, and then they're reinventing transportation over here. And I mean, every room is like something mind blowing. And then they looked over the balcony to the bottom floor. They said that was opera of the future. And we all laughed and we said, well, at least we know nothing productive's ever going to come from the opera for the future people. And that those were the guys who left and formed Harmonics.
Okay.
That's great.
So it's always, and like, what advice would you have for these, like, you know, kind of newbie folks that are taking this course with us and they're liking it, but they're a little intimidated and there's so much computer science stuff out there and they don't know music theory yet. And what path did you take to get from, I mean, all of us didn't know something in the beginning. We weren't born knowing this. We can grow and learn this. But what does that path look like?
Well, I think especially with programming, like you got to have something you want to do with it. Like you can't just learn programming for the sake of it itself. It's too much of a chore then, you know. Like, but if you have something you actually want to create, then that reward at the end of it is worth any, you know, technical stress that programming will give you. But I mean, for me, it's that links right to the music, you know, like there are things I want to accomplish musically, and I wouldn't be programming at all if I didn't need and want to do those things and then find the way to do them, you know?
That's so fascinating to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking about with Fred, it's just like technology is just the tool. You need to have like the, you know, like as long as you can, like that shouldn't be your hurdle. Like, and you're kind of saying like you needed that to get to where you are, and it's not the purpose of it. I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a tool.
You know, the problem for us as educators, right, is we had somebody come in and give us a message like this. And he said, look, what you keep doing is you keep teaching answers to people who haven't asked the question yet. So they don't want to know how to do the thing you're insisting on teaching them. They have no reason to want to do it. If you flip the process, and when they wanted desperately to know how to do this thing, they came to you and asked, it would be a very different experience. And I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yep, totally. So just show them something fun, something that they enjoy, that they want to pursue musically or whatever, or if it's a game, you know. And then if they enjoy it enough, they'll take it further.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, that's great advice, and I hope that's what our course does for some people. At least we're hoping that the project window, that you don't see it as something terrible, that you hear what Ryan's saying, and collaborating is not the end of the world. It's opening your
Boring
world.
is a awesome thing to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and I always just say like it's like you're in a space where it's like you have people that are cheering you on. It's like not necessarily like the real world, so to speak. It's just like
sadly.
I know it is sad, but it's just like you're in this. I don't know. I just see this with this class. It's just such a awesome opportunity to have all this feedback, all this collaboration, all this, and I just want everyone to utilize the time well. So it's just giving a good message. Yeah.
So that's fantastic. So we have connections with you on amanuensis. We'll have like we're cutting in pieces into this. So we'll have like, you'll be able to actually see what Ryan's talking about. And are there specific things that people should be looking for as they're watching the narrated clips?
Well, I think it's pretty well narrated. I mean, that is actually, I mean, I explain what you'll see in the clips are actually written in Unity, not Max. That's the main visualizer.
Okay.
But that's what's been put on top of it as a front end to turned into more of a video game, and that's kind of the idea there. But Max is doing all the heavy lifting in the background. So
that's great. So so that's another plug for Unity, which, you know, I mean, free tools. You cannot spend too much of your budget on free tools.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
And have you found that you need like extraordinary resources to do this? Do you need to have some supercomputer, or what kind of technical
Um,
geeky gear do you favor?
I I I have gotten more and more powerful computer as I've gone along with this. Um, so you probably do need a decent one to run it. It's always a thing in programming, like you don't want to over uh, make things overly efficient right away. That'll trap you and waste a ton of time. Like it's always best to just, I've discovered over and over, and been told by others that like it's always best to just do the easy way first, even if it's resource intensive. And that's kind of how it is. Um, at the same time, it could be cut back and
That's
uh,
terrific
made
advice.
a little more efficient.
So I edit these up afterwards, Ryan, and we'll send you a copy so you can,
Mhm.
put your own corrections in. But as you're talking, I see a banner scrolling in from the left-hand side with these morality play lessons that
Right? Yeah.
Wait, what?
kind of like a little like,
Oh,
don't be boxed in by efficiency. Uh,
Yeah.
because these are
yeah,
things that it can take you a long time to learn. You can bang your head against the wall an awful long
yeah,
time before you get the benefit of this. So we really
totally.
appreciate your insights here.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a common phrase in programming. Who knows who said it originally, but it's like um, premature optimization is the root of all evil. It winds up being very true.
Yeah, yeah, right. And it can be attractive mathematically. It can be kind of interesting in its own right, but it doesn't get you to your goal.
Yeah, yep. You got to be driven by the goal, the need. So if it
And so
works, it
where
works.
Yeah. And where can we send people to find your music online, or uh, see performances with this tool, or what kind of
Um, well, I'm sure there'll be links in the description. If this is up on YouTube, I have a YouTube
good.
channel and Discord, and yeah,
Great.
any of those places.
Awesome. No.
Terrific.
Yeah, if
Terrific.
you want to get a hold of me and try it out, then you definitely should.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna see if we can get a couple of
Yeah. There's
couple of
something.
our computer sciencey students picking this up as a project to run with, because I'd love to see that
Cool.
go forward.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Outstanding, Ryan. We're so
Yeah.
grateful to you for making the time with us, and we're
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
looking forward to talking to you again next semester, maybe when we have
That
kind of a
would be
follow
awesome.
up.
Yeah.
We'll
Like,
be
yeah.
able
I'll have like project
to.
follow up.
Where are they now?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, it was really fun
Yeah. Absolutely.
Super.
talking to
Thanks
you
so
guys.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
If there's one thing to say about the demo video, it's probably just that I'm having a ton of fun while I'm playing. I could play this thing endlessly. I find it endlessly entertaining, and that's kind of the idea. It's not the typical method of writing a song. Like you don't get to choose what enters the song and what doesn't deliberately. It's up to the machines to decide that, and you just get to be surprised by what it gives you in the end, and you get to focus on playing your instrument and just enjoying yourself. And that's the idea right there. Alright, so the first thing you'll want to do after you download the amanuensis is extract the amanuensis 0.5 folder from the zip file. And you can place that anywhere on your computer, but don't move any of the files or folders in it. Just start up amanuensis 0.5.exe or app if you're on Mac. And it'll take a little while to load. The main Max program will open up in a few different windows. After that, a visualizer made in Unity will come up, and that's when you'll know that it's done loading. You can do just about everything through the Unity visualizer as you can through the main Max program, so I'd recommend using the Unity visualizer. And you can hit escape to get to the menu in there to access all those same options. So the first thing in the menu you'll want to do is set up your audio driver. If you're on Windows, you'll want to use either an audio interface or install ASIO for all and use that, which is included in the zip file. You'll need to use an ASIO driver because the default Windows drivers just don't cut it for professional audio applications. And then you also want to make sure that that on-off button right there is blue and not gray or orange. And you can change that by clicking it. So one thing you do have to go back to the main Max window for is to set up the tracks you're playing with. It's the one thing you can't do from Unity, but it shouldn't absolutely be necessary because you should have 2 tracks set up by default, one for synths and one for samples. But if you want, you can edit as many of them as you want to get more synth tracks or more sample tracks, with more drum tracks, using the first box, the first drop-down menu there. And then all you have to do is play with your MIDI source, whether that's a keyboard or anything else, and the MIDI source will appear in one of the tracks. You can change which track you're playing in by using the plus and minus hotkeys, which is what I'm doing here. You can see the key rig 49 is moving from track 2 to track 3. And that will also show up in Unity with these status messages down at the bottom. And then you can use the page up and page down hotkeys to change your sound. So what that will do is if you hit page up, it will give you a new sound at random. And that's a new set of drum samples if it's a sample track, or a new synth with a new random preset if it's a synth track. You can also change it manually if you want, which would be the more traditional way to go. But I like to keep it fresh and challenging and interesting by using random sounds. The other option I'm going to turn on in this demo is to shuffle my selected instrument, the Keyrig 49, if I stop playing for a while. And that means it will move me to a new track and give me a new random sound, which allows me to move around and work on all the different layers of the song without having to explicitly click on anything. And I can just stay focused on playing my instrument, stay in the moment. So here I just begin playing. You just start jamming and wait for it to join in with you, just like a fellow musician in a jam session. The bright circles represent what I'm playing, while the dark circles represent what it is playing. And I say it is playing, but really what it's doing is recording you, taking the best of what you give it and looping it back around you. The dark circles and the sound that starts blending in with you is actually a looped recording that will develop with you and create an entire song as you play. Here you can see I changed tracks and I'm using a new sound, and now I'm getting bright green circles along with the dark blue. The dark blue being the drum track that has already been recorded automatically, what I was just playing. And the song develops from there. If you look in the top left, you can see a few different stats, including the current length of the song, which grows automatically as the system incorporates more and more things that it likes. And here's a third track with a new sound, and now you see bright yellow circles appearing. So one of the ideas of this visualizer is that it turns writing music into much more of a game. And if this is a game, the goal of the game here would be to try to hit the circles when they're at their biggest, just before they disappear. And if you do that, you see they will double in size and you get a score that pops up. And eventually you can see that the circles are pulsing with the rhythm of the song. So therefore, the more circles you hit, the more in rhythm your playing is. The more of it will incorporate into the growing song, and the better your song will get. So the game encourages you to do well and basically helps teach you how to jam. There is a second visualization mode too, which I just activated here. It can be activated through the menu or by hitting the enter hotkey. It's really more of a diagnostic mode, but it looks pretty sweet in its own right. It helps visualize the intervals between the beats more clearly, whereas the other one was just chaos. And there's actually a third visualization mode, which hasn't been implemented yet, but that's even more of a video game. In that mode, you vie for control of a fleet of spaceships that fly around the screen and attack each other, competing with the recorded loops as your adversary. And I intend to make any number of these rhythm games like this that you can just play, not worrying about the music at all, and wind up writing a whole soundtrack to the game you're playing as you play it, with fully recorded songs produced for you in the process. So when you're done with your song, it's up to you when you want to be done. You just stop playing. And it will then play through the song one last time and let you listen to it before it exports automatically. there are a couple more options on the menu I want to go through here. First of all, you can choose where your recordings and project files are all exported to in the first option here. You can also load up any project you were working on before and begin right where you left off, continuing to add to it at any time in the future. And another thing you can do is select an audio file to begin a new project with it as a backing track. So any audio file on your computer, previous recordings of your own or other music you would like to play along with, and the system will begin to build on top of that. So that in particular is a really great way to build up and develop songs quickly. You can take the recordings that export and load them back in as backing tracks once you've solidified something you like, and just keep adding on top of it layer by layer and get a good feedback loop going until you're churning out songs and songs a day. But these are just a few of the options that are available. There's a lot more functionality that I can't get into for the sake of this demo. You can play with any instrument you want, really. You could play with a regular guitar, you could beatbox, you could use a game controller as an instrument, you could stand in front of a Kinect and dance and swing your arms around to play music. It gets in depth. If you want to explore that, get a hold of me and I can help you out with it if you like. Yeah, links are in the description.